If you feel a little tired right now, if you've been trying to change something in your life, but you don't know where to begin, then perhaps this story was written for you. Whatever you're feeling in this moment doesn't need to be judged as right or wrong. It is simply real, and what is real doesn't need to be denied. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. Allow the words that have been running through your mind all day to soften, just a little. This is not a story about miracles. It is not a story about sudden success. It is a quiet record of how thoughts can shape reality slowly, gently, over time. So if a small part of you has been wondering, is it okay to stay like this? Then keep that question with you and continue. Have you ever noticed how similar your days can feel? You wake up at the same time, walk the same streets, board the same train, sit in the same seat, and return home in the same way. Routine gives us comfort, yet somewhere deep inside, a quiet question often lingers. Is this all there is? His life followed that same gentle rhythm. Nothing dramatic, nothing extraordinary, just the steady flow of ordinary days. He had no special powers. He could not see the future, and he could not change the world with a single thought. He was simply a person, living a quiet life, just like you. And yet, something subtle began to shift. He started noticing small moments that felt strangely aligned, moments that made him wonder whether his thoughts were quietly shaping the world around him. Have you ever thought, I could really use a coffee right now, only for someone to offer you one moment later, or felt a calm confidence about a task, and then watched things flow more smoothly than expected? These may seem like coincidences, but when such moments accumulate, a deeper question appears. What if my thoughts are not as powerless as I once believed? He never dreamed of fame or fortune. Like many people, he only wished for a peaceful life, one that did not constantly drain his energy. He wanted calm, not applause, and somehow, that quiet wish began to blend into his daily experiences. What about you? How often do you listen to your own wishes? Do you hear them clearly, or do they fade into the background of a busy life? He could not yet explain what was happening, but he could feel it. Thoughts move silently, without sound or shape, yet they gently color the world we see. The world does not change overnight, and neither does your life, but the thoughts you choose today are already walking toward tomorrow, and perhaps, like him, you are standing at the doorway of a quiet transformation. Chapter 1: The Habit of Thought. How the words in your mind shape your world. Have you ever truly listened to the words that live inside your mind? Not the words you speak to others, but the quiet, constant voice that follows you everywhere, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. That voice never rests. It comments on your life, judges your actions, predicts your future, and explains the world to you, even when you are not paying attention. You might not notice it most of the time, yet it is always there, gently shaping how you experience every single moment. When you open your eyes in the morning, what is the first thing you tell yourself? Is it something kind, like today might be a good day, or something heavy, like I'm already tired? Before your feet touch the floor, your thoughts have already begun to color the day ahead. You may not realize it, but the story you tell yourself in those first moments often stays with you longer than you expect. He was no different from you. His mornings were filled with quiet thoughts that felt normal, almost invisible. Another busy day. I should hurry. I hope nothing goes wrong. These words were not dramatic, and they were not spoken aloud, but they quietly shaped his mood before the day had even started. On the train, a stranger brushed against his shoulder. The touch was brief and harmless, yet his mind immediately began to speak. Did I get in their way? Were they annoyed? Nothing had actually happened, but inside his head, a small story was already forming. Later, when his boss replied with a short message, another story appeared. Maybe I didn't do well enough. Maybe they're disappointed. Have you ever noticed how quickly your mind fills in the blanks? A neutral moment becomes a negative one, not because of what happened, but because of how it was interpreted. Your thoughts act like a narrator, constantly explaining the world to you, even when the facts are unclear. Over time, these explanations become habits. You begin to expect certain outcomes, not because they always happen, but because your mind has practiced those stories for years. Just like walking a familiar path, your thoughts follow routes they already know. One evening, he sat at his desk and opened a small notebook. He wasn't trying to change his life. He just wanted to write about his day. The words came easily. I made a small mistake at work. I didn't talk much with my coworkers. It rained on the way home. Then he wrote the final sentence without thinking too much about it. It wasn't a good day. When he read that line again, something felt slightly strange. Was the day really bad? The rain was just weather. The mistake was minor. The silence with his coworkers was not an argument or a rejection, and yet, the story in his mind had turned these neutral events into a disappointing day. Have you ever done the same? Have you ever labeled an entire day as bad because of a few small moments? What if the day itself was not heavy, but the words you used to describe it were? That night, he asked himself a simple question. What if my thoughts are not just reactions, but habits? The idea stayed with him. He realized that he rarely questioned the voice in his mind. He accepted its words as truth, just as one accepts the weather. But thoughts, unlike clouds or rain, are created inside us. From that moment on, he began to observe his thoughts instead of following them automatically. He didn't try to change them at first. He only listened. And what he noticed surprised him. So many of his thoughts were about the future, not the present. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I make another mistake? These were not reflections of reality, but predictions, imagined scenarios that had not yet happened. His mind was living in a future that did not exist. Do you recognize this pattern in yourself? How often does your mind worry about what might happen instead of noticing what is happening now? One quiet sentence began to form in his thoughts, almost like a gentle reminder. I'll think about it when it happens. It was not a magical phrase. It did not erase his worries, but it created a small space between his thoughts and his feelings. The next morning, he walked to work as usual. The streets were the same. The train was the same. His job was the same. Yet something inside him felt slightly different. The world had not changed, but the way he was looking at it had softened. And that is how he began to understand something important. Your thoughts are not just background noise. They are the lens through which you see your life. If the lens is heavy, the world feels heavy. If the lens is gentle, the world feels lighter. The habit of thought is powerful because it is quiet. It does not demand attention. It simply repeats itself, day after day, shaping your experiences without asking for permission. But the moment you notice it, even just a little, something begins to shift. So now, let me ask you something. What kind of thoughts follow you through your day? Are they kind? Or are they strict? Are they curious? Or are they fearful? Because the story you tell yourself is not just a story. It is the foundation of how your world feels. And once you begin to hear that story clearly, you may discover that you have more influence over it than you ever imagined. Chapter to Small Manifestations, when small thoughts begin to shape the day. Have you ever noticed how your mood can quietly guide the way a day unfolds? Not in a dramatic, magical way, but in subtle, almost invisible ways. A single thought in the morning can change how you walk, how you speak, how you listen, and how you interpret what happens to you. Most of the time, we don't realize this. We simply move through the day, believing that events control our feelings when in truth, our thoughts often lead the way. He did not wake up one morning and decide to transform his life. He did not write a list of goals or repeat powerful affirmations in the mirror. All he did was soften the way he spoke to himself. Instead of saying, "This day will be exhausting," he tried something gentler, like, "Let's see how today goes." It was a small change, almost unnoticeable, but it created a different emotional tone. One morning, as he walked toward the station, he found himself thinking, "I hope today feels calm." It wasn't a wish filled with emotion. It was more like a quiet preference, the way you might hope for mild weather instead of rain. And yet, something about that thought seemed to slow his steps and relax his shoulders. The train that day was less crowded than usual. He found a seat without effort and watched the city pass by through the window. Nothing extraordinary happened, yet he felt less rushed, less tense. Have you ever experienced a moment like that? A moment where nothing special occurred, yet the day somehow felt easier? At work, he completed his tasks with less resistance. The same responsibilities were there, but they did not feel as heavy. His mind was not fighting the day, it was moving with it. A few days later, another quiet thought appeared. Today might bring something good. He didn't expect a miracle. He didn't imagine success or rewards. He simply allowed the possibility of something positive to exist in his mind. That afternoon, as he bought a drink from the vending machine, a small message appeared on the screen. A free drink had been added. He stared at it for a moment, surprised, then smiled softly. It was a tiny gift, insignificant in the grand picture of life, yet it warmed him more than he expected. Why do small moments sometimes feel so meaningful? Perhaps because they remind us that life is not only made of problems and responsibilities, but also of quiet kindness and simple surprises. That evening, he opened his notebook and wrote, "Today wasn't as bad as I thought it would be." The words felt different from his usual descriptions. They were lighter, more forgiving. Have you ever noticed how the words you use to describe your day can change how you remember it? As the days passed, his thoughts continued to soften. He did not force optimism. He only allowed space for gentle possibilities. Conversations began to feel easier. His voice felt calmer. His body felt less tense. One day, a colleague casually said, "You seem more relaxed lately." It wasn't praise, and it wasn't advice. It was simply an observation, yet it stayed with him. What if the way you think quietly shapes the way others experience you? Reality had not transformed. His job was the same. His responsibilities were the same. His life was still ordinary, but the meaning he gave to his experiences was shifting. And with that shift, his world felt a little softer, a little kinder, and a little easier to walk through. So let me ask you something. What small thought could you choose today? Not a grand goal, not a dramatic dream, just one gentle sentence that allows your day to breathe. Because sometimes, the smallest thoughts create the biggest changes. Chapter 3. Why Thoughts Shape Reality. How the story you tell yourself becomes the world you live in. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself what kind of story you are telling about your own life? Not the story you tell other people, but the quiet, invisible story that runs through your mind when no one else is listening. The story that explains who you are, what you deserve, and what you believe is possible. That story is always there, shaping your expectations, your choices, and even the way you see yourself in the mirror. What words do you use when something doesn't go as planned? Do you say, "I'm not good enough"? Or do you say, "I'm still learning"? Do you think, "This always happens to me"? Or do you think, "This is just one moment in a long journey"? You may not realize it, but these small phrases quietly decide how heavy or light your life feels. He used to believe a certain story about himself. It was not written in a book or spoken out loud, but it lived in his thoughts. "I'm not very confident. I'm not the kind of person who stands out. I should avoid mistakes. Because he believed this story, his actions followed it. He stayed quiet in meetings. He avoided new challenges. He chose safety over possibility. Have you ever done the same? Have you ever held back not because you truly couldn't do something, but because the story in your mind told you that you shouldn't try? When his thoughts began to soften, his story began to change. Instead of "I can't," he tried "I can try." Instead of "I will fail," he thought "I can learn." These were not dramatic statements. They were gentle shifts in language, yet those shifts slowly changed how he moved through the world. Thoughts guide actions. Actions shape experiences. Experiences reinforce beliefs. This cycle repeats every day, often without your awareness. But once you notice it, you can begin to see how deeply your inner voice influences your outer world. Ask yourself this when you imagine your future. What tone does your mind use? Is it hopeful, fearful, cautious, or curious? Your future is not only shaped by what happens to you, but by how you expect things to happen. He noticed that when he expected failure, he moved carefully, almost nervously. His body was tense, his voice was quiet, and his attention was fixed on what could go wrong. But when he allowed the possibility of growth, even just a little, his posture changed, his breathing softened, and his awareness opened to new opportunities. The world around him had not changed, but the world within him had. Do you see how powerful that is? You do not need to control everything to change how your life feels. You only need to change how you interpret what you experience. We all live in the world we believe in. If you believe the world is cold, you will notice its harshness. If you believe it is gentle, you will notice its quiet kindness. The same streets, the same people, the same situations can feel completely different depending on the story you tell yourself about them. What kind of world are you living in right now? Is it a world where mistakes mean failure, or a world where mistakes mean growth? Is it a world where challenges feel threatening, or a world where challenges feel meaningful? Your answers to these questions are not just opinions. They are the emotional landscape of your daily life. He realized that his thoughts were not commands from reality. They were interpretations, and interpretations can change. You may think your thoughts are simply the way things are, but what if they are only the way you have learned to see? What if a different way of seeing is already possible for you even now? Try this small experiment in your own life. The next time something goes wrong, notice the first sentence that appears in your mind. Don't judge it, just listen to it. Then gently ask yourself, is this the only story I can tell about this moment? You may be surprised by how many other stories are available to you. Your thoughts do not control reality like magic, but they do shape how you walk through it. And the way you walk through life determines how life feels in your hands, in your chest, and in your heart. So let me ask you one more question. If your thoughts were the voice of a guide, what kind of guide would they be? A harsh one, a fearful one, or a gentle one that helps you keep moving forward? Because the voice you choose to follow becomes the direction you walk. And that direction, step by step, becomes your reality. Chapter 4. Unwanted Realities, When Your Thoughts Create the Weight You Carry. Have you ever noticed how quickly your mind can turn against you on a difficult day? Not with loud words or dramatic thoughts, but with quiet, familiar sentences that feel almost natural. This always happens to me. I should have known better. Why can't I get it right? These thoughts don't shout, yet they settle into your chest and make everything feel heavier. You may believe that these feelings come from what happened, but what if they come from how you explained what happened to yourself? He began to notice this pattern on a morning when nothing was truly wrong, yet everything felt off. His body felt tense before the day had even started. His mind whispered, "Something bad is going to happen today." There was no evidence, no reason, just a feeling. Have you ever had a morning like that, when your heart feels heavy before anything has actually gone wrong? Later that day, he made a small mistake at work. It was nothing serious. No one was angry. No real damage was done. But the moment it happened, his thoughts rushed in. See, I knew this would happen. You're not careful enough. You always mess things up. And just like that, one small moment became a story about who he was. Do you see how powerful that is? The mistake itself was light, but the meaning he gave it was heavy. After that, his focus disappeared. His hands moved faster. His breath became shallow. And more small mistakes followed. Each one seemed to confirm the story his mind was already telling. Have you ever experienced this chain reaction? One mistake leading to another. Not because you are incapable, but because your thoughts are pulling your attention away from the present moment. On his way home, rain began to fall. He had no umbrella. The streets felt cold and uncomfortable. His thoughts whispered again, of course this would happen today. But was the rain truly a personal failure, or was it just weather? When you look back on your hardest days, how many of the painful moments were caused by events? And how many were caused by the stories you told yourself about those events? That evening, he sat quietly in his room, staring at the ceiling. He felt tired, not just in his body, but in his mind. He had tried to think positively before. He had tried to be calm, yet here he was, feeling overwhelmed again. Have you ever felt disappointed in yourself for not thinking better? He opened his notebook and wrote honestly, Today was difficult. I felt frustrated. I blamed myself. Then he paused, and beneath those sentences, he added something new. But today is over. I am still here. I can begin again tomorrow. Do you notice the difference in these two sets of words? The first describes pain. The second creates space. Your thoughts do not need to be perfect. They only need to allow movement forward. You are not required to feel positive all the time. You are only asked to be gentle with yourself when things feel heavy. Think about the last time you struggled. What words did you use with yourself? Were they harsh? Were they understanding? Would you speak to a friend the same way you spoke to yourself? Unwanted realities will always appear in life. Mistakes, misunderstandings, loss, disappointment. These are part of being human, but the weight they carry depends greatly on the words you place on top of them. You can turn a moment into a burden, or you can turn it into a lesson. You can turn a mistake into a failure, or you can turn it into growth. The event is often the same. The story is what changes everything. So when your thoughts become heavy, ask yourself this gentle question. Is this the only story I can tell about this moment? Because sometimes a new story is already waiting to be told. Chapter 5: Aligning the Mind. How to gently bring your thoughts back to yourself. Have you ever tried to force yourself to think positive, only to feel even more tired afterward? As if your mind resisted the pressure, tightening instead of relaxing. You tell yourself to stay calm, to stay hopeful, to stay strong. Yet your thoughts continue to wander toward worry, doubt, and exhaustion. If this sounds familiar, you are not failing. You are simply human. The mind does not respond well to force. It responds to attention, patience, and understanding. He discovered this on a quiet evening when his thoughts felt especially restless. There was no crisis, no emergency, yet his mind would not settle. Worries about the future, regrets about the past, and small self-criticisms filled the space inside his head. He tried to push them away, but they only returned more strongly. Have you ever noticed how resisting a thought often makes it louder? So instead of fighting his mind, he tried something different. He opened his notebook and began to write, not to solve anything, but simply to observe. He wrote what had happened that day without judgment. No labels, no conclusions, just facts. I felt tired. I made a small mistake. I went home early. Then he stopped. Nothing magical happened. No sudden peace arrived. But the noise inside his mind softened just a little. Why? Because observation creates distance. When you observe your thoughts, you stop being inside them. You begin to see them. And when you see them, they no longer control you in the same way. Have you ever watched clouds move across the sky? You don't chase them. You don't argue with them. You simply notice them passing by. Your thoughts can be treated the same way. He also began to notice the power of breath, not in a mystical way, but in a simple, physical way. When his breathing slowed, his thoughts slowed. When his shoulders relaxed, his mind followed. Try this for a moment. Take one slow breath in, then let it out gently. Did you feel even the smallest shift inside your body? Your mind and your body are not separate. They speak to each other constantly. When your body feels safe, your thoughts soften. He stopped demanding perfection from his mind. Instead of "I must think better," he tried "I can be kinder." Instead of "I should feel calm," he tried "I can allow what I feel." And something changed. His thoughts did not disappear. His worries did not vanish, but they stopped feeling like enemies. They became messages instead of threats. Think about your own thoughts for a moment. Do you treat them like problems to fix or signals to understand? He also learned the quiet power of gentle language. Instead of "this is terrible," he tried "this is difficult." Instead of "I failed," he tried "I am learning." Instead of "I'm not enough," he tried "I am growing." These were not lies, they were softer truths. Your words do not need to deny reality. They only need to support you through it. Aligning the mind does not mean controlling every thought. It means creating a place inside yourself where thoughts can pass without harm. Imagine your mind as a room. It does not need to be perfect. It only needs to feel safe. What kind of space are you creating inside yourself? Is it a place of pressure or a place of patience? Is it a place of judgment or a place of understanding? Because the way you treat your thoughts is the way you treat yourself. And when you treat yourself gently, your reality begins to feel gentler too. Chapter 6: Subtle Change. How quiet shifts create lasting transformation. Have you ever waited for a big moment to prove that your life was changing? A clear sign, a dramatic event, a sudden breakthrough that would make everything feel different all at once. Many of us imagine transformation as something loud and obvious, something we cannot possibly miss. But what if real change rarely announces itself? What if it moves quietly, almost invisibly, through your daily life? He began to notice this in the smallest moments. Nothing spectacular happened. No doors suddenly opened. No miracles appeared. And yet, something felt different. The mornings felt a little lighter. The air felt a little softer. His body felt less tense when he stepped outside. Have you ever felt that kind of change? The kind that doesn't come with excitement, but with calm? When he woke up, the familiar heaviness that used to sit on his chest was not as strong. The day still held responsibilities, but they no longer felt like threats. Instead of thinking, "I have to survive this day," he began to think, "I can move through this day." That difference may sound small, but small shifts create large effects over time. At work, challenges still appeared, mistakes still happened, but his reaction was no longer filled with panic. He paused, he breathed, he responded instead of reacting. Have you noticed how much power there is in that pause? When you pause, you give yourself a choice. When you give yourself a choice, you regain control. His conversations with others felt different too, not because the people around him had changed, but because he had changed how he showed up. He listened more. He rushed less. He spoke with more ease. And when you feel at ease, others feel it too. Have you ever noticed how calm energy spreads quietly, just like tension does? The world around him remained the same streets, the same buildings, the same routines, but the way he experienced them was gentler. He began to notice the colors of the sky, the rhythm of his footsteps, the quiet moments between tasks. What moments do you usually miss when your mind is busy? Change did not come as excitement, it came as relief. Relief from constant self-criticism, relief from endless pressure, relief from fighting his own thoughts. And with that relief came clarity. He realized something important. Life feels different when you stop arguing with yourself. Do you argue with your thoughts? Do you judge your feelings? Do you rush your healing? When you stop doing those things, your life does not become perfect, it becomes peaceful. Even his worries felt different now. They still appeared, but they no longer felt like enemies. They felt like signals, gently asking for attention rather than control. What if your worries are not trying to hurt you? What if they are trying to guide you? Quiet change does not seek attention, it seeks balance. And balance feels like breathing more easily. Balance feels like moving more gently. Balance feels like being present without forcing anything. You may not notice your own growth because it does not shout, it whispers. But every whisper is a step forward. So ask yourself this: in what small ways have you already changed? Not in achievements, not in success, but in how you treat yourself. Because the way you treat yourself is the truest sign of transformation. Chapter 7, Thought and Destiny: What you can shape and what you can gently release. Have you ever wondered how much of your life is truly in your control? When something goes well, it feels natural to think, I made this happen. And when something goes wrong, it is just as easy to think, I should have done better. But life is rarely that simple. Some parts of your story respond to your choices, while other parts move according to forces far beyond you. Understanding this difference can change how heavy your life feels. For a long time, he believed that every outcome reflected the quality of his thoughts. If something failed, he assumed his mindset was not strong enough. If something hurt, he believed he had invited the pain through negativity. This belief made him try harder, think harder, and judge himself more strictly. Have you ever felt that pressure? The pressure to think correctly, the pressure to stay positive, the pressure to control your emotions. At first, it feels empowering. Later, it feels exhausting. Because no matter how carefully you shape your thoughts, some things cannot be shaped by thought alone. Weather changes without asking you. Other people act according to their own worlds. The past remains unchanged no matter how clearly you understand it. And yet, there is still something deeply powerful within your reach. You may not control what happens, but you can choose how you meet it. He began to notice this during moments he could not fix, days when his body felt weak, situations that did not go as planned, conversations that ended without the answers he hoped for. Instead of blaming himself, he asked a different question. What part of this moment is truly mine to shape? The answer was always the same: his response, his attitude, his kindness toward himself. Have you ever separated what happened from how you responded? When you do, something softens inside you. The weight of responsibility becomes lighter. You stop carrying the entire world on your shoulders. He realized that destiny is not a fixed path, but a meeting point between what life brings and how you choose to walk forward. You cannot choose the wind, but you can choose how you hold your balance. You cannot choose the storm, but you can choose how gently you treat yourself while it passes. This understanding changed his relationship with failure. Failure was no longer proof of weakness. It became proof of participation. Have you ever considered that simply showing up is already a kind of success? The more he released the need to control everything, the more peace he felt. His thoughts became guides instead of judges. They pointed forward instead of pointing out mistakes. Your thoughts are not here to punish you. They are here to support you. So ask yourself this: what are you trying to control that no longer needs your effort? What are you holding that could be gently set down? Sometimes, the greatest strength is knowing when to stop carrying what was never meant to be yours alone. Thought and destiny are not enemies, they are partners. One shapes your direction, the other shapes your lessons. And together, they shape your growth. Chapter 8: The one whose thoughts are about to become reality. You were never meant to become someone else. As you reach this point in the story, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself something simple, yet powerful. Have you been reading about him, or have you been reading about yourself? Because the truth is, he was never meant to be a distant character. He was not created to stand apart from you. His thoughts, his doubts, his quiet changes, and his gentle growth were all reflections of the same human experience you live every day. He did not become extraordinary. He did not gain special abilities. He did not suddenly master life. What he gained was awareness. And awareness, when nurtured with kindness, slowly transforms how life feels. He used to believe that becoming better meant becoming different, stronger, braver, more confident, more impressive. But over time, he discovered something far more peaceful. Becoming better did not mean becoming someone else. It meant becoming more himself. Have you ever felt the pressure to change who you are in order to feel worthy, to be calmer, happier, more successful, more put together? We often think improvement means replacement, as if our current selves are not enough. But what if growth is not about replacement at all? What if it is about understanding, acceptance, and gentle alignment? He learned that his thoughts were not commands from the universe. They were conversations with himself. And like any conversation, they could be shaped by tone, intention, and care. When he spoke to himself with patience, he felt more grounded. When he spoke to himself with respect, he felt more confident. When he spoke to himself with compassion, he felt more at peace. The world outside did not suddenly change, but the world inside him did. And that inner world was the place where his reality truly lived. Have you noticed how your inner world affects everything? How it changes the way you walk into a room. How it changes the way you listen to others. How it changes the way you see your own reflection. He began to realize that his thoughts were shaping not the events of his life, but the experience of his life. An experience is what we carry with us every day. So when we say, the one whose thoughts are about to become reality, we do not mean someone who controls fate. We mean someone who understands how deeply their inner voice shapes their journey. That person does not chase perfection. That person does not demand certainty. That person does not fear every mistake. That person walks gently, listens carefully, and grows quietly. And that person may already be you. Think about your own thoughts for a moment, not the loud ones, not the dramatic ones, but the soft, repeating sentences that guide you through your days. Are they encouraging? Are they patient? Are they kind? If not, remember this: you are allowed to change the way you speak to yourself. You are allowed to choose gentler words. You are allowed to grow at your own pace. Because your thoughts are not here to control your destiny. They are here to guide your experience. And when your experience becomes kinder, your life becomes lighter. You were never meant to become someone else. You were only meant to become more aware of who you already are. That is the quiet power of thought. That is the gentle shape of change. And that is the truth of becoming the one whose thoughts are about to become reality. Epilogue. To you, a final moment of stillness. Before you close this story, before you return to the rhythm of your own life, I want to leave you with one final invitation. Not a task, not a goal, just a moment of awareness. Take a breath, notice where you are, notice how you feel. Your thoughts are with you right now. They always are. They are not enemies. They are not obstacles. They are simply companions on your journey. Some of them try to protect you. Some of them try to warn you. Some of them try to guide you forward. They may not always be gentle, but they are always speaking from a place of human experience. So instead of silencing them, try listening. Instead of fighting them, try understanding. Instead of judging them, try guiding them. Your thoughts are seeds, not seeds of control, but seeds of experience. What you nurture grows. What you soften becomes lighter. What you accept becomes easier to carry. You do not need to rush your growth. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to become perfect. You only need to remain present with yourself. Because every moment you spend listening to your inner voice with kindness is a moment, your life becomes more peaceful. And peace, even in small amounts, changes everything. So as you step back into your day, ask yourself just one gentle question. What kind of thoughts would make my life feel a little kinder today? Then let those thoughts walk with you. Quietly, softly, naturally. Just like you.